and welcome. I'm Kriti Mehta and you're watching the World Report on NewsX World. Let's take a check at the top headlines this hour. British police arrest former Prince Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor on suspicion of misconduct in public office linked to allegations over his past ties with Jeffrey Epstein. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi unveils India's Manav vision, standing for moral, ethical and human-centric AI at the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, promoting inclusive and global artificial intelligence. French President Emmanuel Macron praises India's digital public infrastructure as a global benchmark and hailed its pioneering role in combining technology with humanity at the ongoing AI Summit. U.S. military forces are prepared to launch strikes on Iran as early as this weekend, according to multiple reports, as President Trump weighs possible action amid stalled nuclear talks. Former South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol sentenced to life imprisonment after a court found him guilty of leading an insurrection through his brief 2024 martial law declaration. Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates pulls out of his keynote address at the India's AI Impact Summit just hours before it was due, as his foundation cited the need to keep focus on the event's priorities amid fresh Epstein scrutiny. Meta CEO Mark Zuckerberg has testified in a landmark US social media addiction trial, facing questions over whether Instagram was deliberately designed to be addictive and harmful to children. Bangladesh's new sports minister has signaled a quick reset in cricket ties with India following recent T20 World Cup tension after holding talks with Indian diplomats to resolve disputes through friendly dialogue. All right, viewers, let's start now with the top news updates coming in with the arrest of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor. Now, King Charles III has issued a statement following the arrest of his brother Andrew Mountbatten, saying he has learned of the situation with deepest concern. The king emphasized that the full and proper process will be carried out by the appropriate authorities and that they have his full support and cooperation. He stated clearly the law must take its course. Meanwhile, the king said it would not be right for him to comment further, and he and his family will continue in their duty and service to the public. And in fact, Thames Valley Police have confirmed that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, the brother of the king, has been arrested on suspicion of misconduct in public office. King Charles said he was deeply concerned and stressed that the law must take its course, confirming full support and cooperation with authorities. He said it would not be right to comment further as the process continues. Neither King Charles nor Buckingham Palace were informed in advance that Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor was to be arrested today. Officers are carrying out searches at addresses in Berkshire and Norfolk, with photos showing vehicles believed to be police cars arriving at the Sardingham estate. The investigation follows a complaint regarding the alleged sharing of confidential material with the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Andrew, who turns 66 today, has denied any wrongdoing. Let's now in fact go across to Mark Sutherland, geopolitical commentator from London, joining me in this discussion. Mark, thanks very much. How do you react firstly to Andrew's arrest today on his birthday from Sandringham estate?
Pretty good to be with you. The key issue is this, for people that are following this story. For some, this has been a long time coming. We have to remember that £12 million was given to Virginia Guthrie a few years ago. The accusation is that that was financed by Prince Philip, the Queen, who are no longer with us, and by Charles. But the accusations have really accelerated because the concerns have been about, as a trade emissary envoy for the UK, the comments that have then been found within the Epstein files is, what was he doing in that particular position? Was he using that position to then benefit himself. These are the accusations, and also in regard to conduct. Were the police officers that were guarding him around the world, were they put in awkward positions, turning a blind eye to his actions? These are all accusations that now, when 8 police cars turn up on the Sandringham estate with eight officers to then arrest him, those conversations will then happen. That happening on his 66th birthday, we can draw a variety of different conclusions on that one. But there is a lot of questions, but the main thing has been, has he then abused his position? How long for? We can spend hours speculating. Now at last, some people want to drill down and find out the truth, Kriti. So we're just going to step back and wait and see how this will unfold. Thank you.
Mark, given the fact that Andrew is now devoid of any royal title, he has been stripped of his position, will he be tried like any other accused, or is this case going to be any different?
Well, as Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, formerly known as Prince, as you have just said, I don't know. I don't know how this is going to play out. But the key thing is, as his brother, who is the king of this country, has turned around and said that no one is above the law. That's a bit of a huge issue in this country in regard to a variety of other things. No one is above the law, but some people think that they are and have got away with things that they need to be held to account. I do not know. But on the other hand, this then starts to create a feeding frenzy, which says we want people to be held to account. Now, the big issue is this, is that speculation is one thing. Coming up with the evidence is the most important thing. And as the king in his statement is saying, we'll let the legal proceedings take their course. And that is then what is about to unfold, and that is what he is then pressing on in this regard. But as I say, the links are, the reason why this has really come about because of Peter Mandelson's, because of the accusations made to him as well. It's about what was Andrew doing as a trade envoy? Was he using that to benefit himself or the country or for UK PLC? Kriti.
All right. Mark, do continue to stay on with me. I'm also now joined in by Professor David K. Johnston, who is teaching at the Rochester Institute of Technology, and he joins us now from New York. Professor Johnston, thanks very much for joining me. It's a pleasure to have you. Now, could Andrew Mountbatten's arrest really open the floodgates into investigations on other high-profile contacts of Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell?
Well, I think nobody in the world should be more worried about this arrest than Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Now, Mark just gave you, I think, a really good explication of the issues here and the uncertainties of the things we don't know about. And one of the things we don't know about that would be crucial is where the Crown prosecutors really want to go. One thing prosecutors always try to do is get a bigger fish. So is there any chance for Andrew to say, for Andrew to say to the Crown prosecutors, well, listen, wouldn't you rather have a case here, or even if it's not a prosecutable case in the United Kingdom, against Donald Trump? And Mark is quite right that the security people around the former prince, Andrew, they're going to be crucial witnesses, and they are obligated to testify honestly, in contrast to the US, where Donald Trump is running a criminal extortion racket. In fact, that's what the New York Daily News yesterday called the Trump administration, a criminal organization, something I've been saying all the way along. And you're now seeing that for the first time in a mainstream newspaper.
All right, let me go back to Mark once again. Mark, now a statement has come in from the king himself. He's saying he's deeply concerned and ready to fully cooperate. But how do you see this carefully worded statement that's coming out from the monarchy. What really is the strategy behind this statement from the king?
Well, the strategy is that he has no option. He has no option because of the comments that have been made, the concerns that have been made. And I'm focusing on Andrew's role as an emissary, as an envoy in regard to pushing UK trade around the world. I'm deliberately focusing on that because that means if you have been abusing that position in public office, then that then is a springboard to say we really now have to talk to him. You could argue if you look at Andrew's life as a pinball machine, that the flippers have been flipping away all of these accusations for a long time. Now the ball has been missed, it's gone into the hole at the bottom of the machine. Now he has no option to face the music. But having had a long chat with a dear legal friend of mine in the US this morning, the key is that the court of public opinion is one thing, and many of us have our opinion, but it's coming up with the evidence. And as I say, no one is above the law. The problem is when we start to feel that many people are above the law, or the fact that the court of public opinion is where we try everyone, then we don't have a legal process anymore. And David may be in a far more position from his experience to comment on that. Whether he is guilty or not, whatever he has done, he is entitled then, if it goes to court, to a fair trial, no matter what the court of public opinion feels. And I don't know if it's going to go that far. He may be in a room, he may be in negotiations, but the fact is we have a huge problem in the UK. And this goes into a load of other people. There are many other people that need to be investigated. Some people will say, well, this is convenient smoke and mirrors, and that involves in regard to other issues and various political actions that are unfolding in the UK as we speak.
All right, let's then take that to David himself, who's with us. David, Andrew has up until now been denying any role in the entire Epstein sex scandal. Do you think today's arrest, one on his 66th birthday, is going to now change his legal position, or can he still maintain this is a witch hunt against him?
Well, if he and his lawyers decide that's the best strategy, that's what they're going to pursue. The problem, as Mark pointed out, is he has security guards, security details, and they know things and they can talk. So he's got very tough choices to make. And we don't know exactly what the supervising Crown prosecutor has instructed to happen. But for sure, Andrew is going to try to minimize any risk to him, any prospect of serving time behind bars. We don't know what other United Kingdom citizens he may be able to offer up, which he certainly, that's how prosecutors work in cases like this. You get somebody, you have them, and then you leverage them to get other people. And look at the contrast between not just London, but the Danes and several other European governments opening investigations of high-level people because of names in the Epstein files. By the way, I'm in the Epstein files, perfectly happy to be there. It's about my journalism. Okay. But they are going after these folks. In the US, Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, is acting as if she's Donald Trump's defense lawyer, and she is snarling and nasty to members of Congress. That's not going to hold up if a lot of new stuff comes out in formal judicial proceedings in London.
All right. Well, thanks very much. Do continue to stay on with me, Professor Johnston. Let's once again go back to Mark on the national security angle. Mark, if it is proven that there was trade of secret sensitive information while he was in office, what does this really mean going ahead for the UK national security, and what consequences could it have years later?
Well, the Oh, that's why Peter Mandelson, his house has been searched, and he will be talked to, because they're then concerned about him when he was a member of when he was in the cabinet office. That the accusation is he then passing financial information to Jeffrey Epstein? That is a conversation that's out there. That is then the comment. That is why he is then being talked to. The Andrew Lowney, who the royal historian, has then his book that is out, and it will be revised, and also in interviews has then raised the issue of young women, young ladies then being brought to, Buckingham Palace and elsewhere to Andrew. These are the other accusations that are then going on. That's why suddenly there is this push, and some may say feeding frenzy, to then address that. And as David quite rightly said, just because your name is in the Epstein files does not mean that you have done anything criminally.
Yes.
That is the important thing to say.
Yeah.
The whole thing, Pritchie, just finally, there is a bigger thing that potentially is on trial here. And the trial is, how do you then get a fair trial within legal systems around the world? And that is what, having had that conversation with a dear friend of mine today, that is what is actually, at the end of the day, is going to be on trial. Whether we think these people are guilty or not, they have to be found guilty within the letter of the law. And just quickly, what people have had enough of within the UK, with various other things, including the other scandals of the Chagos Islands and all the rest, is that people are fed up with people benefiting in very high position and not being held accountable.
Yeah.
And this is the issue, and the key issue, I say it, no one is above the law.
Yeah, and that's
Pritchie.
exactly my next question is, and I take that to Professor Johnston. Professor Johnston, now, today's arrest, of course, quite dramatic, but do you think it's going to accelerate calls for further transparency in the UK monarchy?
Oh, absolutely.
Possibly even
the
reforms.
Public opinion here is going to influence what the politicians do. The criminal matter has to be proven beyond a reasonable doubt or by confession. And typically, people confess to get a better deal. You're looking at 20 years in prison. Oh, well, we'll give you 2 if you cooperate. We don't know exactly how this will play out, but because it's official misconduct that's being brought here as at least the initial issue, not child rape, that is going to influence the course of this. And it's part of the reason that Donald Trump should be very, very worried as he runs his cover-up operation. And by the way, I would not call this a sex scandal. Those involve adults. This is a scandal about trafficking children.
Right.
According to one of the members of Congress, it turns out that we thought 13 or 12 was the bottom. No, apparently there's a 9-year-old and a 10-year-old cited in the Epstein files that are being held back. That should really take people who think, well, they were teenage girls, into the realm of this is beyond the pale.
Absolutely. Shocking indeed, but thanks for sharing that with us and for joining us, Professor Johnston. It's good to have you and speak with you. Mark, I request you to stay on. Viewers, we now move ahead. Now, at least 34 people were killed when suspected Lakurawa Islamist militants launched coordinated attacks on rural villages in northwestern Nigeria's Kebbi state, according to a security report seen by Reuters. The Lakurawa group, a new insurgent faction active in Kebbi and Sokoto state, carried out simultaneous raids on multiple villages, overwhelming local defenses and forcing residents to flee. Survivors described the attacks as highly organized and indiscriminate, with gunmen storming homes and opening fire. Security forces have deployed to the area to protect communities, assist survivors, and track the militants as operations continue to prevent further violence. Mark is there with us in this discussion. Mark, what's your first response? Another about 34 people killed in this latest insurgent attack.
it's horrendous. What else can we say except that? I mean, we had the American bombing of various others of ideologically like-minded last December, and then now we have more attacks from a new group, but with the same ideology. This is an outrage. All right, thank God that security services have gone in to then protect the villagers, but more has to be done to address this. And I will say this, is that in regard to Christian persecution around the world and the amount of killing around the world per day is huge and is beyond many of our imagination. But this is taking place, and it is unacceptable, and cannot even imagine those kind of the circumstances of what these poor people have just been through. But it's what are Nigeria going to do to then address this, but also, Kriti, to look at the forces of follow the money who are then pushing this, who are then helping to finance these groups. That's the other thing that we need to look at. Boko Haram and all the rest. This takes us down a very, very interesting motorway that we must all explore. Kriti.
Mark, thanks for your assessment of the situation and for joining us. And moving ahead now on to some tech news. Now, viewers, global tech leaders and CEOs gathered in the national capital of India for the AI Impact Summit, and the deals are massive. Reliance Industries and its telecom arm, Jio, say they will invest nearly $110 billion over 7 years to build AI and data infrastructure. Chairman Mukesh Ambani called it a long-term bet on India's digital future. Adani Group has pledged $100 billion by 2035 for renewable-powered AI data centers, a move it says could unlock a $250 billion AI ecosystem. Microsoft says it is on track to invest $50 billion across the global south by 2030 after committing $17.5 billion to India last year. Yotta Data Services will spend over $2 billion to build one of Asia's largest AI computing hubs using NVIDIA's latest chips. TCS has signed OpenAI as the first customer for its new data center unit under the Stargate initiative. And Larsen & Toubro has partnered with NVIDIA to build what it calls India's largest AI factory. India is clearly positioning itself as a global AI powerhouse. Viewers, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for news and updates from around the world.